Hi everyone, it's Matt Stranik with you here. I'm in Salmon Arm today, and I'm using a different computer than normal, using the so-called enhanced hotel internet. So we're going to see how this goes. Before we hear from my excellent colleague, Dr. Doug Reed, I'm just going to say that at the moment, any lagging or even possible failure of this platform can be assuredly placed squarely on me. So, how you doing, Doug?
I'm good. I'm good, but I don't think it's squarely on you. This could be the topic. This is one of the topics I've written down for later, where it's the technology's fault. It is not your fault. So it's blame the technology when things go wrong. That's a whole philosophy I have that we're going to do some other day.
Well, thank you, Bud, and I appreciate that. Good to hear about the upcoming topics. One thing I would say is it's I think yeah, if you're like a non-educational technologist or whatever, yeah, Doug has a good point. Don't blame yourself. Not you. Yeah. It's like the interface is designed to work. The technology is designed, the hardware, the network. So thank you, Doug. I think that's, I appreciate it, dude.
Hey, you're welcome. And before we go any further, I just want to say I'm in Mi'kmaq territory, the unceded traditional lands, and I'm happy to be here. So I just wanted to put that territorial acknowledgement in. And I know.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly so, Doug. Thank you for that. You got it in first this time, man. That's awesome. I'm still actually in Secwepemcúlecw here in the ancestral and unceded territory of the Secwepemc people. Where teaching and learning have taken place since time immemorial. Grateful to be here. And I'm in a much smaller town this time around. I sort of felt like just at the end of the year, I wanted to give myself just like a little 3-day excursion, just to a smaller community. Basically, hole up in a hotel and read a few books and walk around a bit and just get outside of my normal routine. And I think that's actually kind of in keeping with when I saw Doug's title for this. I'm just like, I'll come up. I'll find something to go with the music here. But Doug has a really excellent title for this episode. Doug, what's the title for this episode, my good man?
Derelict, Lagan, Jetsam, and Flotsam. And the basis of all that is what we threw overboard,
Well,
what we abandoned, what we noted to address, and what we did sort of address previously.
I'm going to longer title you put in there, bud. New Year's Eve special, and then
Yeah,
because no actual fact it's Friday. Not to spoil the magic for anybody, but it's Friday morning, and I'm not going to be in a position to use Camtasia or whatnot until, in fact, New Year's Eve evening. When I'm hanging out in my apartment, editing it together, because that's what my year has been like. But I love that. I love that. Picking up things sort of at the end of the year, considering them, maybe even positioning them for further or different kinds of use.
Hey, you're back.
Okay. Again, speaking of the need for possibly Camtasia, that's what's going to happen. So that warms my little educationalist's heart. Doug, do you want to speak to that a little bit more? I'm really eager to talk about the website redesign that I did yesterday. But before I get into that, do you want to speak to this a little bit more in terms of what compelled you specifically to think of this topic right now?
Yeah, thank you for that. The key point are the words flotsam and jetsam. Like I grew up on the coast, so stuff landed on the beach. It just did. And I'm a bad one for picking up driftwood. I collect driftwood no matter where I go and how I do it and all the rest of that silliness. And the amount of stuff.
Maritimer, son. That's maritimeism in your blood, son.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. So I come by it honestly, but as we did our first 12 episodes, we had this fantastic opportunity to leave stuff behind because we didn't get to it during our sessions. And I'm like, this would be a nice way to tidy it up.
Well, and that's awesome. And in my sort of scan of your notes, I saw some of some things that we've talked about before. Which I'm really looking forward to just revisiting them. This is what you called at the last episode, Doug. This is like the baker's dozen that we managed to get in here. So right. This is your free Timbit, or this is your free donut at Dunkin' or something, and you get your 12. So, and if by the way, Doug, have you had a look at the new website that I sort of the new theme and everything that I threw up there?
I quickly took a look and thought, wow, that's cool.
So it's not. It wasn't like repellent. It wasn't like, oh, this is like okay, great. It actually.
I also hit my head yesterday, so.
We were talking about this before.
Yeah.
Doug, like, you're not concussed though, are you, Doug? You took a face plant though, right?
Yeah, I like my nose and my lip and my chin and both my wrists. Yeah. So note to self: if you want to learn anything, if you're stepping off a set of stairs to go down to a shore and there's all kinds of snow on the rocks, the coefficient of friction will get to 0, and then your feet go out from underneath you, and then what happens. For me, it was faceplant.
I
don't think I'm concussed, but
I've told you my tale of woe about my mangled sort of pinky finger. Yeah, that was like the last day I was on payroll at TRU, right? Like February, whatever. It's dark, and I'm going up to see my kids or something, and just and it's like now like when I was in the room with the doctor and the doctor practitioner, the med student.
Yep.
I remember they popped it back into place, and I'm like, that isn't the right angle, but they're basically like, yeah, your finger's not going to have to be hacked off. So like, okay, dudes. So anyway, Yeah. So I kind of had my thing at the beginning of the year, and now you have this like experience now. So it's just like it's been a pretty severe year. I'm happy with it, overall. But
Oh yeah, but we're starting the new year on an upswing, right? Because that's what the new website's about. And I would love if you could just tell me a little about it, about the bits that you really like.
oh well, okay. It's not even that I felt there was a need to redo it, but I really did have this homework, to get our podcast onto other platforms, which we are now, man. We're now
Nice.
indexed. Yeah, we're on Spotify for sure, and I'm pretty sure we're on Apple, and I'm also pretty sure we're on Google Podcasts. Now, so what they needed was certain kinds of metadata, right, in
Yes.
order to index it. And basically, when I was trying to get it on, I realized that they needed metadata situated within the WordPress theme in such a way that it would sort of check their boxes as they needed to. So that was one aspect of it. It was like, okay, reboot the theme, still go with something simple, something, concise, hopefully, an experience for the person, who's using it. But then as well, I ended up downloading this plugin. Go figure, right? With WordPress. So there's like numerous of them, and I was just like, okay, here's the one that was up. Here's the plugin for podcasting that was updated, as recently as 3 weeks ago, and has been downloaded 50,000 times, right? So this is when your stats
Yep.
are helpful, right? Especially that updated piece, right? But then I got the plugin and I just sort of literally fumbled my way through it. Just like, oh, well, what if I put my email address here as opposed to here? And it was 3 hours or so of trial and error, and I'm still not
Oh,
totally happy with it. But nevertheless, it was like one of the benefits of the show for me, Doug, as you know, as I say basically every episode, is, man, this is like the closest that I've been to like work within my field in quite some time. So I'm just enthused about the process, and as ever, I'm glad when the results don't suck. So I'm like,
oh no,
it doesn't suck.
they don't.
It doesn't suck. That's awesome. So yeah.
Oh, I like it. I like the little boxes that keep everything separated. That
It's like
really
a tool.
warms
It's like a
my heart.
toolkit. Yeah, it's like the little
Yes.
thing where you got your screws over here, and then you got your little thing for your tape measure. It kind of compartmentalizing without being unduly fussy about it. I don't think, right? So again, I like to think that design and educational values, like I like it when they align well. And I
Yep.
think that this is maybe a bit more contemporary, and I think it's just a bit more in keeping with what the show is turning into, quite frankly. So
Yeah.
thanks for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. Because I look at it, and as soon as you brought up toolboxes, I have 5 toolboxes right now, and it's like
Of
this
course
is
you
the one
do.
that I had for my bow. Yeah, I woodwork, so this is the stuff for like electronic-y things, and this is the stuff for like when I try to fix my own iPod. So yeah, I love what you've done with it. It's nice and organized now. Here's all the bits, and I can dig into what I want, and it's not just a giant scroll thing. So it's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, I just enjoy it immensely enough. And I get, again, for me, this is like where, again, I can see the downstream benefits of this as like, now I know what plugin to get for the music podcast that I'm doing on January 1st with Dan. So it's only 15 minutes work, right? As opposed to,
Yeah.
3 hours of like, but that 3 hours to me was well spent. And this is what, we're talking about learning design and instructional design. I will say in defense of the LMS that this is one thing that if you get your course shell or whatever prepped just that ability to just clone it instantaneously and share it out to others. I mean, that's, like when I was doing my first stuff with wikis back at CNAQ, that was one of the major, major advantages within our departmental prep, right? Just not having to, do the whole thing from scratch each time, right? Which is kind of what the practice had been for a lot of us anyway beforehand. So, Doug,
yeah,
I want to
like,
dig into these notes because I feel like I want a bit of a ramble here, dude.
Oh no! When you start, I'll wave you down. You're not rambling yet.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to be like, mindful of my interactions with you and more respectful of my interactions with you and with our audience, our nascent, yet I think we got like the same 5 or 10 people, I think, who are basically checking it out most of the time. And, with this new, like it took me 3 hours, but it took me 3 months to get to doing those 3 hours. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
I do actually. I don't know if you can see this. This is a mandrel. No, it's a mandrel for making rings.
What?
And this has taken me 3 years to get, and it just arrived today. Like literally, just as you called, the mailman was up there, so the dogs were losing their marbles. So it's just a little mandrel where it's thin at this end, thicker at that end, and you, whatever ring size you want, you get the metal there and you hammer it down to make the ring. I saw a guy online, like he was 13 years ago, and he was making rings, and I'm like, I need to try to do that. And so I get it. It takes a long time to get the energy or everything sorted out. So 3 months isn't even a thing. But you might, that's. Sorry.
I'm sorry to barge in on you. Part of this is like the slower, enhanced internet connection from the hotel. But man, you realize that you're very close to being Lord of the Rings?
Oh yeah, I'd love that. Right now,
if you start making a ring, you're going to be the Lord of the Rings. I'm just saying, man. I've never even watched any of those movies. I've never even read any of those books, but I appreciate a good nerddom, reference when I can get one in. So, thank you for that, for humoring me there.
Since this is the EnT podcast, right? That's exactly the literature I was talking about when you made this suggestion for this podcast, and I was all over it because that is where I'm nerdy. I go right there.
Well, that's in the notes too, actually. I was scrolling to the bottom and I'm like, there's this Groot-looking tree thing. You want to, since we're on the topic anyway, apparently, that is the EnT, right? Can you give us a little bit more background on the EnT? What do the rings do?
Sure. Okay, well, in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings environment, way back in the day, somebody made dwarves, and dwarves made axes and started chopping down trees. And then somebody else said, hey, we need to protect these trees. So they created these EnTs, which are basically walking trees, which would stop the dwarves from chopping down the trees. But EnTs were like shepherds of the forest. And they would wander around and do the things that they would do. And they were basically super old, super slow, but I always thought they were really cool. They never got too excited too quick, because sometimes I can be quick to react, and I need to take a deep breath sometimes and calm down. So and Fangorn is the name of the key one, or Treebeard, depending. In the books, it's Fangorn. Sorry, go ahead.
Dude, I was just going to say, you may have almost to read one of those books or watch one of the movies. Are they in the movies too, or just in the books?
Oh yeah, they're in the movies as well. It's worth it,
man.
It's worth it, right? Especially if you have a beer or something and you watch. When I was in Australia, and I got my first Australian credit card, the first thing I did is I bought the extended edition of the Lord of the Rings movies. So it's like 12 or 15 or 80 hours or something of all these extended scenes. And you take a break after every 4 hours to go to the bathroom and then come back to some more. But that's why I was excited by the EnT name when we came up with the Ed non-tech. When you came up with it, and I jumped on it and agreed quickly.
Well, I'm just like grateful that you were willing to do it at all. So when I was like, oh, this is an aspect of this that appeals, then okay, man, like whatever I can do in my own selfish way to get this thing into existence, right? So, yeah, I love this. I'm New Year's Eve special, derogant, login. I've never even heard that word before, dude. And I'm an English major. Jetsam and Flotsam. I love that. I love that. There's a prog rock band called Flotsam and Jetsam, but I refuse to.
Yep.
For the, but anyway. Okay, so you got some good quotes here, dude, and I'm just looking at the document now. No matter how good teaching may be, each student must take the responsibility for his own education. John Corliss. I like that. I like that. I mean, so one of the things where ed tech, right, with management systems and whatever other ways you want to talk about it, there's ways of like, you can be more engaged with students' behaviors in those environments than maybe even you want to be or should be.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got opinions about that, but I like the notion here. Anything about bringing it back to the students and giving them ownership of it is I'm in favor of, right? So,
yeah, for me, I hate jumping through stupid hoops. It's I got to fill this in because I got to fill this in. Okay, I don't care. I don't learn. But when I was teaching and somebody said, "Hey, can you find me 2 more points to get me to 80 or to get me to 75?" I'm like, "Show me where you earned 2 more points." And it becomes, I'm not giving you points, you're earning them. And students didn't know what to do with that sometimes because it's like, no, you're the arbiter. And I'm like, no, I am not. You demonstrate to me how your learning should be here and not there, and I'm happy to make that change, but you need to show me.
Well, and what I like about that is, like, this is where providing, I love it when you talk about actionable in this podcast. So this is where, having really good rubrics for all your assignments that you give students in advance can be really helpful. This is when, and some, I mean, and this isn't to put anybody down, but it's like, I think with profs, there's sort of like this tendency to be like, on the first day, we're going to go through the syllabus, and then come to me with a problem, I'm just going to say it's in the syllabus. I don't know that's, I think the syllabus is maybe a document that if you actually sort of bring it up and, refer to throughout the semester and not just be like, it's a syllabus, why don't you know, right? Where it's actually sort of a living, evolving kind of document. To me, that's just,
we go back to the reward systems. A lot of these profs aren't educators. A lot of profs aren't educators. They're there to do their research, or they're there to be administrators, and teaching isn't important to them. And the student is important to us. So that's why we agree on so many things, I think.
Well, I wouldn't even say that there are people who take that responsibility seriously, but they balance it. It may be for some people the part of their job that they feel less confident about, or it's less, it's less because it's hard, difficult, and you're accountable to everybody, right? You're accountable to so many people. So, I mean, again, I've been there, right? You just want to get into the room and then get out without knocking over the apple cart or whatever, right? So, So, yes, but yeah, so this, so what? Oh, sorry, dude.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, cool. So again, I'm just going back to your document here because there's so much good stuff. So now, over the last 15 years, we have witnessed a significant reappropriation of media technologies from the past and has attracted scholars. 2016. Okay, so for sure, so it, uh, we clearly agree with that. But I guess what made that jump out at you this time around?
We didn't get to talk about retro technologies enough because, to be
Oh,
honest, I am in love with my vinyl albums. Like, I'm just in love with them. They work so well. There's another analog component that is so fantastic, and it just works. And I just, like, I have an old car right now. Like, my wife has a nice car, and I have the other car, and everything just kind of works, and that's great. And I was just reading about what Tesla and Mercedes are doing, and now you have to subscribe to do stuff. Oh, you want to do more than 100 kilometers an hour? Oh, you got to pay us $15 a month, and we'll let the engine go that little bit faster. Oh, you want heated seats? Oh, okay, that's going to cost you. Oh, you want a heated steering wheel? Oh, that's an additional monthly subscription fee. And I like the fact that my car just kind of works. It is what it is. I don't have to pay month. I pay for gas and I pay for maintenance, but I don't have to pay to use the features that exist in the vehicle. So I just love the concept of retro technologies. It's old doesn't mean bad. And I know we talked about it a bit before, but
brain kind of visualizing that whole scenario with the luxury cars that you just described, and it's just like, of course, how it's going. It's like first Apple gives you your streaming music service, and now you just get used to, like, it's just like everything in your car that you rely on, to any degree, is just going to be like, eventually it's just going to be another app. It's all just going to be like, computer systems, and mechanics are going to have to be, probably have to be now more knowledgeable even about those systems than they do necessarily, just like, I don't know, what are the car components? I have no idea. I don't drive, but yeah, right. So it's just interesting. Like, the subscription model is branching out, right? That's very cool, dude. That's
well,
good.
Another example is right here. I have my new computer, or newish computer, and I set up my old computer. It's 14, 15 years old, but I paid for Photoshop. Like, I paid the money, and Photoshop is on the old computer, and it still works because I refuse to pay $30 a month. I will instead plug in the old computer and make sure my desk is big enough to have two big screens on it so that I don't have to pay that subscription, because that is crazy to me. It's like, I already paid. It's like Apple. Do you have a lot of Apple? Do you have a lot of music, like electronic?
What I've got is just an Android phone, and it has Apple Music on it. And I was mad. I'll tell you, I was mad. When you were like, when they did the whole transfer from downloading files to the streaming thing, I was like, what do you mean? It won't even play my files anymore, you sons of bitches. I felt like they stole from me. And then it was like, you could go, it's like, you can do this really obscure thing online to gain access to them. And I'm like, I can't figure that out. Eventually I just stopped being mad, and I'm just like, hey, whatever. This is just how it is now. So,
and I refuse. I'm still the Luddite that has his old computer and has all his music on it, and I play everything through that, and it still works. And that goes back to the Enyon article too. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, directing us somewhere more directly relevant. So I would prefer to stay on that tip. Which one? The
The
Anion
Enyon and
article?
Malmberg.
What? So,
Yeah, the Enyon and
huh?
Malmberg, 2001, Lifelong Learning in the Internet. The
Oh,
benefits
yeah,
of online.
gotcha. It's the first one. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So this is talking about lifelong learning, right? Okay, awesome, dude. You want to keep going with that one?
yeah, because what we were just talking about is our conceptualizations and how the tech is supporting it and how our ideas are supporting what we are doing as lifelong learners. Because we both just described the same frustration and process of the subscription model and how we could have lost control of our music or our software or our whatever. And that article
There's
to
going to be
me talks about
cars where
things like that.
because of that.
Sorry,
Awesome.
say that again.
I was just going to say, like, to go back to your awesome thing about the cars, which I'm still weirdly fascinated by.
Oh yeah,
I feel like, um, and he could just be like, oh, this person did not, pay their thing. And, suddenly, like, I don't know, maybe like brake light fails to work, like what if your car decided it didn't like you, right? What if the person who was approving the permissions for the apps came to work drunk that day or impaired or with malicious intention? Man, I'm really thinking of science fiction stories here that exist.
Well, the
lifelong.
No, but on that same topic, I'm pretty sure I read an article someplace. It wasn't an academic article. It could have been clickbait or whatever, but it's if you owe money on your Tesla and you don't pay, I've been hearing stories that they just turn the car off. Like if you're late on your car payments, it's just nope, sorry. Make your damn payment. I don't know if that's true, but I've read too many articles in too many places. So I think that's, if it's not true, I know the idea is out there. So I'm sure somebody will give it a go. If it's not Tesla, it'll be one of the others.
Man, I'm thinking of like now, like variations of. Do you remember the movie from the '80s, The Repo Man?
Yes. Yeah, that was a fun
that,
show. That was an '80s show.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, what will the repo men of the future do in those circumstances? I don't know, man. That's dope. This is speaking of flotsam and jetsam. I hope I'm not just jumping around here too much on you, bud.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, prior to Douglas Adams' picture, there's an article which we've used this before, but it's still awesome. Kumar and Kay. Education program. This explores how ed tech can be leveraged to support distance and alternative learning that urgently needed. That's something we agree with. That changes to the delivery of education are probably wanted. Again, was there anything about that thought compelled you here at the end of the year to bring it up for or whatever?
Yeah. I really love it. And I don't think I can say it enough. That's basically, I think of that as one of those wooden boxes that's fallen off a sailing ship and it's kind of floating in a lagoon. And Gilligan or somebody goes and finds it. It's like, this is the important thing. This is what we need hanging around, that we keep bringing it up. So I think that's lagging. That whole concept that how we have to provide things, because lagging are goods that have sunk to the bottom and are tethered by a marker to be potentially recoverable. So this is just me. That little note was just a tether to say, and because I'd never heard the word lagging before either, so I'm just fascinated and I want to use it a bunch now. But it's just to keep coming back.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard that, and it's a fascinating concept. And I like how even within the vernacular of the show, we are come up with some sort of, metaphors, if you will, that are kind of, our personhood, if you will, of timers, generally people of the Atlantic Canadian region. But then as it's just there's nothing like a good or metaphor. You know, the of certain or significant figures. As part of my Read-cember, I finished up this graphic novel that Chester Brown wrote. This guy who wrote Riel, the graphic novel. So he did this book, Prostitution, the Early Bible. Several of them are just stories, his interpretation, Chester Brown's interpretation of allegories, right? So Jesus was a storyteller. That's what the four main gospels show us a lot of. And again, you talk about ways that things can resonate. I'm totally off on a tether here, dude, because my whole friggin' I'm educator thing fired up. But that's an awesome concept. Wagon. I do like that a lot, bud.
Well, so I wanted to get to your Read-cember because that, to me, was something we talked about. You were involved, and we never came back to it. And I didn't want it to be derelict. I didn't want it to just sink to the bottom and be gone. I wanted it to be flotsam, where it's resurfaced and let's talk about it. So, what did you get out of it? And did you have like a favorite thing that you read?
Well, I'm just like, first of all, I like anything that I could use as a bumper sticker. Like, I'm like, if I had my own English class again, I could totally do this, right? I just totally like, hey, school children or university students or whatever, all those books you kind of picked up and put down partway through. I still have aspirations over the next couple of days of getting a few more things off of it.
Nice.
I guess ultimately, I have up to my reading, and I finished a few things. But what I would say is one of the benefits for me about all this kind of stuff that I've been through lately is that I am trying to be more intentional about important things in my life, like sleep. Like if I were to move here, you can see my sleep apnea machine right over there, my CPAP. And it's only been in the past couple months that I've actually made a habit of using it every single day. Getting myself into those kind of habits, getting myself into just a regular reading routine again, just being able to just like, I've got my pile of books near me, I've got 10 minutes, I can just pick it up and start going into it. So, I mean, it's all been more of a thing where I sort of signify in a goofy kind of way on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I will be the first to admit that my social media presence is completely ridiculous. I will be the first person to say that. But it usually does speak, at some level to something else that's actually going on. So, yeah, Doug, I didn't really answer your question, but thanks for the opportunity to talk about it anyway.
Oh, well, part of what I think we're doing, what I like that we do, is it's education. Yep. Is the first word and the first letter in our title, right? And part of it is, as lifelong learners, what are we doing and how are we doing it? And when you talk about focusing on sleep, it's like, holy smokes, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. Like after doing that face plant, my body's stiff and I'm trying to stretch it out. I can't do yoga because both my wrists are sore, and so it's all, how are we getting there and what are we doing? So
exactly.
There's one other lifelong learning thing I want to go into, and we briefly talked about it, but we really didn't. And it was artificial intelligence.
Which
I read a really cool article about artificial intelligence in this one prof, and I didn't write the reference down, and I'm kicking myself because normally I write the reference down. And this lady is an academic. This lady's an academic, and she used some AI that was freely available online, like browser based, and she said, "Students writing essays is dead." because now AI can do a better job. So I want to cover that at some point.
No, that's awesome. I've actually seen like on Facebook, I don't know if it was you who actually shared the article. Anyway, somebody, because I know of teachers on Facebook, figure how a student actually had a prof had just had to prosecute their first case of plagiarism of a paper written by AI. So yeah. Anyway, it's an emergent issue. And this is where it's like, if you back students into a corner with your teaching methods to the point that that's what they're resorting to, maybe there's a chance for you to reimagine both your curriculum and how you deliver that curriculum, right? I hate that word delivery. It sounds so mechanistic, but it sort of fits neatly with it, right? It's like, maybe instead of these sort of putative, scary 40% exams, you break it down into more, experiential learning or like active learning kind of based strategies and approaches within the semester. It goes back to like, you can't just say, well, here's the readings, you're expected to know it, and here's the test. It's like, it's in the syllabus. You didn't read the syllabus. Like, come on. Maybe And so I think it all comes back to like this whole kind of adversarial kind of relationship that is, I think, a hallmark of the European approach to, Victorian 19th century kind of like, you're the widget coming off assembly lines here, and the person is there, older, more experienced than you, and just suck it up, buttercup. Sorry, dude, I kind of went off on a ramble there, but
no, I think
that's what I got right now, dude.
You didn't go far enough. Well, I don't think it's the student versus the teacher. I think it's the society and the system versus the student and teacher, and the student gets squeezed. But that's be another topic. I would love to talk about that for an hour.
Well, sure, exactly, and I guess what's sort of coming to mind too is because I mean, just as sort of my again a benefit for me of the show is again starting with the sort of more intentional acknowledgments that we've been trying to do at the beginning of every episode. Is just through my reading of the Ignatius book about Secwepemc territory and laws, the Gottfredson books, poetry books, the books about the residential schools, and the book about the Highway of Tears that I haven't picked up yet. It's just like there's this whole way of knowing and being through indigenous cultures and their worldviews that is just so rich that it's not even like, should learn it for moral reasons. It's just like you cannot, your appreciation of the world around you will actually be enhanced if you expose yourself to something, right? So again, I think that's sort of something that I see as a good, not a remedy, but like a counterbalance to this European kind of like, you have to master this content, otherwise you fail, whatever crap, right? Like just no. There's people have been doing this stuff other ways, close by for thousands of years, right? Why wouldn't you want to know a little bit more about that, right? So anyway, that's kind of one of my, I guess, personal things for a while now, but especially, I guess, we're talking about things at the end of this year. We're talking about things that have been kind of important. And again, Doug, I just appreciate the opportunity in this setting within my own limited little sphere of influence to be able to kind of, stuff up and, just explore with it a little bit. So.
Yeah, I'm thankful for the exact same thing.
Thank you.
So one other thing I want to talk about with AI is in the show notes.
Yep.
There'll be two pictures that look like trees but look like a person. I went in to one of these free AI things because I'm not paying, and I took a picture of myself.
Yep.
And then it had some of the words, like what words do you want? And I used like the word ENT. I used like tree ENT because that's what the Dungeons and Dragons characters are called. And I used to play Dungeons and Dragons D&D all the time when I was younger. And then I used like Douglas fir tree because if I'm going to be named after a tree, right, that it's a Douglas fir because my name's Doug or Douglas, whatever. And those are two of the best. I came up with about 40 that were just hideous, that were useless. But those two,
Wow.
I thought, if we're looking for some sort of logo or theme or whatever, because in both of those pictures, it was based on a picture of me. And one is more. And if we're ENT, I like that picture. It's and I need to express myself graphically.
I am fascinated by various aspects of this, Doug. So I'll try not to trip over my own shoes here when I'm speaking to it. I guess first of all, browser-based AI self-portraits. Like, okay, I will in true collaborator spirit. I will sooner than later. Do that myself. I will come up with an ENT for myself, and then we'll have our two different corresponding ENTs, and then that can be like professional bio pictures. Dr. Doug Reed is like, Australia, Kamloops, PEI, and Matt's like, doctorate out of University of Calgary, blah, 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 online teaching, etc. And then it's just going to be like self-portrait instead of the professional headshot. It'll just be like, here's some AI ENTs. Here's Matt's AI ENT, and here's Doug's AI ENT.
Yeah.
So that's all dope. I know, man. I like how your notion here of, and then whimsical though it is, of an environmental consciousness is, this is sort of a, this is a point to insert that through the lens of, a little bit of satire, a little bit of levity, a little bit of parody here, because that's how we roll. But we're tagging something. What's that word? This
metadata.
The tagging word. Yes. Say it again.
Metadata.
No. Login.
Oh, login. Yeah, login. Okay.
It's a tag. I'm going to stop thinking of tags. I'm going to start thinking of login. It's a signifier, right, for buried stuff.
Yep.
That's
it.
Man.
That's right. That we've flagged or tagged or whatever to say, we're coming back for that.
Yeah, and I've got to be honest, I haven't done much thinking on AI as a thing. So if this is something where we can speak to it in further episodes, I would definitely enjoy that. So
cool. I'm a little jealous though, because my name is Doug. I'm basically shoehorned into my ENT has to be a Douglas fir tree, and your name is not Doug, so you get to choose all the other trees that you might want to use.
I'm going to be like something stunted and weird with roots in the swamp. So what kind of tree grows well in a swamp? I don't know. That's a bog. The other show, Bog Monster Music. Anyway, that's dude. We're hitting close to 50 minutes, and I am thinking that some of those minutes at the beginning will be shaved. I've really, just to say, as always, I continue to enjoy this. And I don't know, man, in terms of the speaking, in terms of, like, apart from the learning experience, I do like to think that the show is, starting to kind of come together, find its own voice. I mean, I'll quit doing it when you're ready to quit doing it, basically, is what I'm saying. So.
Oh no, I don't want to quit. Holy smokes. I'm loving working with 506 Productions. I think that's a class act right there. So I want to keep this going.
506 is like, I'm just waiting for the business offices to return to their normal post-holiday schedule. And I'm paying my money. That's going to be like a legally incorporated business enterprise operating in the province of British Columbia. Now, it may turn out that 506 consulting is so generic that the title, that name's already been used. So I'll have to specify it further. 506 BC Consulting Limited or something. But anyway, thanks for the shout out on that, man. Appreciate it. That's
no worries. So I want to apologize because I've kind of got festive season brain going on. It's like, oh man, I don't know if I was all here. I hope what I said was worth recording. I enjoyed listening to your stuff.
Well, my concern is just when I start talking, I digress, which isn't always a problem. But the other problem is I definitely am guilty of barging in on people or not listening enough. So this is something that I am, with all sincerity, trying to improve upon as a personal characteristic. So.
Yeah, and along with that, I'm trying to make sure that I ask you more questions because the first couple of podcasts I didn't, and I love where you take stuff because you take stuff places I would never think of going. But then we get there, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That could lead us to something else. And it's great that we think differently, and we're both trying to change and adapt and learn more stuff.
This is just why two people works so much better for this. Like the notion of just doing one of these things, just here's one person, extemporizing on, the issues of the day. There are only people who are good at that, but that would get old very quickly, right? So this is, anyway, it's good, man. So
right on.
I think by the time I'll be doing my Camtasia and whatnot on the New Year's Eve. So likely this will be coming out New Year's Day or maybe New Year's Eve. I mean, it depends on how late you're up and what you're up to. It's like, Doug, are you sitting by the phone for the Facebook message saying it's ready to check? You're like, no, but maybe we'll see what we can.
So what I'm going to do then is say goodbye to 2022 or hello to 2023, depending on how the timings work.
Well, exactly. We certainly appreciate everybody who's even watched this even once. Even if you just watched it for part of an episode and decided it wasn't for you, seriously, any engagement at all. And Doug made a good point last time that we'd love to see comments on the videos, whether it's on the YouTube channel that goes with, the YouTube videos themselves or in the WordPress. I don't think there are any technical aspects that should keep that from happening. But that's why you can also reach us by email, ednontechpodcast@gmail.com. Yes, Mr. Doug.
And I have one question, just to focus it a little more rather than just, hey, tell us your comments. I just at the very bottom of my sheet, it's what derelict, lagging, Jetson, or Flotsam would the audience like us to address in more detail in a future podcast? Because we've left a lot of stuff lying out there, floating around in the lagoon or the middle of the ocean. Does anybody have something they want us to talk about?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So yeah, we're open to suggestions, feedback, or if you're like, you guys suck and I don't like Matt's scarves. I mean, we can handle that too. So yeah, I guess that's probably all. Safe and happy and restorative New Year's and into 2023. We really appreciate you checking it out. Bye from me.
Yeah, and bye from me as well. Have a great one.
you.